Hoko Pulitzo's Poetry Moment, featuring Stanley Kunitz's poem, The Longboat. I'm Sarah Luckadoo. Stanley Kunitz had a long time to contemplate mortality. The poet wrote and read and worked in his garden until he was 100 years old. And he often talked about the idea that while we're in the midst of being alive, we're also on the path to our graves. Kunitz wrote, "The deepest thing I know is that I am living and dying at once, and my conviction is to report that self-dialogue." The video that follows this introduction captures Kunitz at age 88 reading The Longboat. This poem centers on the Viking funeral ritual of putting their dead on boats and setting them adrift. Kunitz visited Hoko Pulitzer audiences during the term of his second National Poet Laureate appointment and recorded an interview and a reading of this poem. In Norse mythology, boats represented the Vikings' life at sea, so the dead were sometimes placed on ships and sent out to sea, or buried in grave mounds shaped like ships, outlined in stones. In 1904, just a year before poet Stanley Kunitz was born, this Viking burial ship was discovered in a burial mound with 2 female skeletons and ritual funeral goods on board. It dates from before the year 800. The poem The Longboat hovers on the perimeter between life and death, touching on what is precious about life and also what is inevitable, even peaceful, about death. Kunitz begins his poem with the boat leaving the shore, bearing a dead passenger who is the poem's speaker. Kunitz allows readers to feel the dead man's nostalgia and reluctance on leaving the world of the living, but also the contentment of slipping into death. The Viking's burial ship is also his cradle, rocked by the waves into the peace of the infinite, with a nod to Walt Whitman's poem, "Out of the Cradle, Endlessly Rocking." Kunitz, who won the Pulitzer at age 54 and a National Book Award for work published when he was 90, said he believed the secrets to his longevity were writing poetry, being curious, digging in his garden, and drinking martinis. But it's through his writing that readers understand the deep beliefs he held about the importance of poetry and the sacred nature of life. In his preface to his collection, Through Later Poems, New and Selected, Kunitz wrote, "The poem comes in the form of a blessing, like rapture breaking on the mind," as I tried to phrase it in my youth. Through the years, I have found this gift of poetry to be life-sustaining, life-enhancing, and absolutely unpredictable. Does one live, therefore, for the sake of poetry? No, the reverse is true. Poetry is for the sake of the life. And now, The Longboat by Stanley Kunitz.
The longboat. When his boat snapped loose from its moorings, under the squeaking of the gulls, he tried at first to wave to his dear ones on shore, but in the rolling fog, they had already lost their faces. Too tired even to choose between jumping and calling, somehow he felt absolved and free of his burdens. Those mottos stamped on his name tag, conscience, ambition, and all that caring. He was content to lie down with the family ghosts in the slop of his cradle, buffeted by the storm, endlessly drifting. Peace, peace, to be rocked by the infinite, as if it didn't matter which way was home, as if he didn't know he loved the earth so much he wanted to stay forever.